My speech impediment just comes out
Whenever it
at
wants to.
whatever it wants to.
No worries. Well, against all odds,
Yeah.
everybody. Amy and I want to welcome you to our show. As I said, this is Against All Odds. Of course, you're on live with Marcy and Amy, the Heart Centered Woman. And today we're going to be talking about how to stay true to your vision, give it life, and find the courage to be the creator you came to be. I'd like to start off by Amy asking you to introduce yourself so we can get a little background on you and your speech impediment.
My charm, it's part of my charm. People
That's
always
right.
think people always think I have an accent. I'm like, no, it's just my speech impediment coming out. I am Amy Shade. I am a women's life coach. I am also the creator of the Radical Embodiment Method. And I am here to support women in their lives, in their relationships, to really, bring themselves to the forefront of their life in a way that is like an unfolding of self that we all get to participate in. And as we will discuss today, we are living in, new times,
Mhm.
and how we navigate this time is exactly the thing that I focus on in my work. Is how do we as women go for our passions, stay true to our vision, stay in our body as things are metaphorically and also in reality crumbling around us, right? How do we still stay resilient, stay with love, hook up to universe and the energies that are actually help serve us during these times of disruption? And so I'm happy that you're here today. And Marcia and I are, very intentional in our pickings of themes and taglines. And so we're here for you to serve you during this time. And Marcy, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Ames. So, one of the things that Amy didn't mention is that we're actually in our fourth year of this show. And as she did mention, we are so intentional with everything that we bring to you. We tune into the times, we tune into the energy, and we ask um, our higher selves, like, what do we need to discuss right now? What do we need to bring to the forefront so that we can support you 100% in your journey? So, in my work outside of our show, I'm known as the Heart Shift Coach, and that is based on a proprietary process that I've created from my 50 plus years in this field of helping people to heal their hearts. And so, my work focuses on self love. I believe that self love is the journey that each and every one of us is on, and that the the purpose of that journey is to systematically introduce ourselves to the divinity within us. I believe that we are here to be divine creators. And due to conditioning as children or even in our past lives, the information that we have brought forward that has distorted that inner view is what needs to be released, and we need to clarify a brand new vision every step along the way. And so, this heart shifting that I do is actually a recalibration of that energy so that we are then able to radiate that energy out. And of course, with the knowingness that the universe will meet us right where we are each and every time, it will bring back to us the experiences that are aligned with that new frequency. And this, of course, is the basis for manifestation as well as creation. And so, with that, I'd like to begin our program with a quote. And this is from Oscar Bimpong, and it is: success is for those that press on when they see a wall, find ways around a roadblock, and consistently push boundaries and conquer territories against all odds. And so here we are once more, officially welcoming you to Against All Odds: How to Stay True to Your Vision, Give It a Life, and Find the Courage to Be the Creator You Came to Be. So, with that, Amy, I'd like to start off our discussion with this question for you. What does it really mean to stay true to your vision, especially when the world is trying to sell you a safer, smaller version of yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. Um, you know, the world has always been afraid of our power. Okay. And that's been part of the job of this infrastructure that we live in. And so, us really creating a vision and us understanding that we are the creators of that vision, and we are the one who are responsible to find a way to navigate these visions that we desire. Now the world is, trying to sell us many things. One is that we have to be perfect, and as you know, perfection kills creativity. Okay. It is telling us that we must give ourself away and pay attention, give all of our attention to others, which is our kids, our friends, our partners, right? And so, what does it really mean to stay true to your vision? Well, it's interesting because we must also come to these terms that we've been programmed. We must come to radical acceptance about we've been programmed to think all these things and to believe all these things, whether it was done in your home, school, your religion, or your parents or your teachers, right? We talked about that. But in that knowing that we've been programmed to give up, we've been programmed to not, as Marcy says, have self-love so that we can create the endurance and passion for ourselves and our visions. So what it means to stay true to your vision is to, number one, recognize that we've all been programmed to submit, to be good girls. We've all been programmed to be quiet. This is all just programming. This is not who we came out of the womb. We came out screaming and crying and expressing ourselves and moving and being very animated in who we are. And so if you have a vision, if you want a vision, if you're like, I want a vision or I have a vision, how do I stay true to it? First and foremost, you must really focus on what you value, what's important to you. And, write it down. If we oftentimes we go to jobs, many of us, and they have these rules of conduct, and we don't break those rules. And we should not break the rules that we have around our visions and what we desire. So, Marcy, you look very intense. Marcy, we are here against all odds.
We sure are.
So you often use the phrase against all odds. What does that mean? And what is the energy beneath it? What needs to be understood here?
So, thank you for that, first off, Ames. I do use against all odds very regularly, actually, when I'm speaking to my clients. And quite frankly, Amy and I are perfect examples of this, and you are too. The fact that you're in this audience reaching for this sort of um, programming, right? Where it is a new way of looking at things, a new way of understanding yourself. It's against all odds that you're here because you, as Amy was saying, have been programmed not to do this. And yet in your heart, you have this yearning to understand yourself better, but also to actually get in touch with this power that you already have within you. And what is that power? It is the power to create. And this is really where we're being called at this moment. And I say called because as we raise our vibrational frequency, we are given access to information that we didn't have access to before. And with that, of course, comes new opportunities and also new responsibilities. And in fact, I often say even obligations. And we become accountable to ourselves. And so, against all odds, is when you are um, in this world and yet not in it. So, in other words, you have managed to step outside of the programming and you stand against all odds because the odds were against you in getting here. And so, what this really is calling us to do is even stepping outside of the structure of coming into this place of knowingness. This is a very fluid state, and it's one that you have literally been programmed against. So it's like swimming upstream, right? You have this constant current and you're being barraged by that current. And from all the different directions, this current is pushing you to go in a certain direction, not look to the left, not look to the right, and in fact would prefer that you don't look at all. Just go, do what you're told to do. So, in this moment, you have gathered the strength, and so I applaud you. You've gathered the strength to start to swim upstream. What happens when we do that is that we enter into a completely different world. And that's the world that you're being invited to be a part of today. It is a world of creation rather than reaction, rather than just staying in the programming. You are stepping outside of that matrix, you might say, and stepping into yourselves as creators. And it is such a high frequency of energy. You're going to start to recognize that you have superpowers that you never realized. And we'll talk more about those in a minute. But Amy, I'd love to come back to you. I have a question about creators because so many creators feel blocked by old wounds, family dynamics, cultural expectations, past failures. What is one internal contract you had to burn in order to become who you are now? And this, by the way, is a question I invite everyone in the audience to be thinking about. Thanks, Aim.
Yes. It's interesting because these times that are very tumultuous for people, they're asking us to actually step up and be the creators. Like,
Yeah.
oftentimes we think it's all supposed to be easy. And when things get tough, maybe there's challenges, we often question our visions and questions our desires because we believe is supposed to be easy. And I'm here to tell you that in the challenges is where we really learn about ourselves. I mean, this is where we get to prove to ourselves how powerful, how resilient, how creative we are, right? And so while things might be painful and where we might personally be struggling about where we belong in this moment because of all these challenges we are being asked to really come face to face with on some level, and like, who can I be in this moment, and learn about myself during this challenge. And so when I talk about these us creators being blocked, blocked by challenges, blocked by old wounds, blocked by these past failures, right? We all have this cross to bear. And yet it's a blessing. It's a blessing when we figure it out. Like, we become more empowered in our creative self when we go through a challenge and we come out the other side. So the things that we have to burn, the contracts we have to burn, is this old belief. I had to burn it, that I had to be perfect and everything has to be perfectly done in the journey throughout the challenge. And I had to burn that contract with self, because me holding on to that perfection idea of what it's supposed to look like and who I'm supposed to be, and I can't make a mistake. If I make a mistake, oh my God, I would toss and turn all night. I would make one stupid mistake and I would stay up at night ruminating about the mistake. And so that's the contract I had to burn. This idea that I had to be perfect. And you know what? I burnt that contract coming from this atheist mindset where perfection is applauded. I had to burn that contract. And you know how I did it? I created a relationship with Mother God, universe, and understanding that I am loved and supported no matter what. Perfection was not needed. When I burnt that contract, everything changed. Everything changed. And I started to participate more in life. I participated without having to be perfect. And to me, that was life changing for me, because I was such a perfectionist. I was an atheist, and I was someone who only had me to rely on. And if I wasn't perfect, I mean, it hit me hard. It hit me very hard. So many of us as creators, we must come face to face with our old wounds. We must come face to face with our old beliefs. We must let go of these constructs so that we can actually be the creators we're born to be. And so, yeah, I mean, what's one internal contract you had to burn to become who you are now, right? And so I think most of us as women have the perfection contract. And then we do everything perfectly. We do everything perfectly, and things don't work out still, because it's not about perfection. It's about participating, and we never know what we're going to end up with, but we go through the journey and we learn. So, Marcy, I'm going to ask you, so in the chaos of the world today, is it really possible to hold your vision when we are often living in contracted states energetically?
So this is such an interesting subject, really, because when we have been living in chaos for extended amounts of time as we have now, right? This started back in 2019 with intensity 2020, and here we are in 2025. And for the most part, I have to say, a lot of people that I speak with have actually become numb to the fact that we are in chaos. There is very little energy that is a peaceful energy in the outside world. As a result, we've become very accustomed to living in a contracted state. Why? Because the contraction comes from fear. It comes from the fear that there's so much outside of you that you're not able to control. You must need to protect yourself from it. This, of course, is the complete antithesis. It's the opposite of what the heart would tell you. The heart would tell you that you are protected at all times. And I know that this sounds like it can't possibly be true, but because the heart is where we are connected to source energy, and source energy is a constant energetic connection. Never are we separate from it. We are always safe within it. But because we have this tendency and programming to constantly be looking outside as a barometer, right, as to who we are and how we need to protect ourselves, we have become so numbed to the contracted state that we don't recognize that we are actually cutting ourselves off from the very energy that we are meant to take sustenance from. So, in a contracted state, you may think that you're holding your vision. And in fact, my experience, and I've been working with manifestation now for, I don't know, 30 years or so, something like that. Many people think, okay, tunnel vision, I'm putting my blinders on, this is how I'm going in, I'm holding that, I'm holding that, and I'm holding that. And here's what the universe is doing. How about this? How about that? Oh, I know what you want, but this is even a greater version of that. And look at all these colors, and look at all this vibration. And in other words, the universe wants to serve you in such a way that it wants you to have the greatest experience ever in how it responds to your vision, your dream. So if you're in this contracted space, you cannot stay in the flow of creation. Creation does not hold fast to a straight line. It is not linear. And if you think of yourself even as a river, right? So a river is sending its energy down, and you think it stays within the confines of its banks, but it doesn't. It leaches out into the soil on either side. It picks up rocks and it says, oh, how beautiful you are. Let me polish you. And it picks up twigs and leaves. And then maybe there's a foot that comes into the river and it says, let me massage you. Let me soothe you. Let me cool you down. And then it says, oh, this would be the perfect place for a patch of flowers. So it deposits all these seeds over here, and then it plants a tree over there. In other words, it is constantly in a state of creation. You cannot do that with blinders on. You can only do it when you maintain the flow of energy. And so, this honestly is like a golden nugget, girl, where you can take this now and start to understand maybe why some of the manifestations that you've worked on in the past have not come to fruition, because what was needed to feed it and expand it wasn't able to get in. So Here's what I'm saying to you: break out, break out. Know in your heart that you have that vision to feed, not to hold and keep it small. Ooh, did you just get that? Yeah. Correlation, right? That's how we are programmed to be, small and staying just in the narrow lane. So, Amy, with that, I'd like to ask you, what role does embodiment play in your creative process? By the way, if any of you haven't watched Amy's dance videos on her Instagram, you have to watch them. They're absolutely adorable. And she is in a creative process in every single one of them. But anyway, let's get back. And why is it essential for women who want to live a bold, aligned life?
Beautiful. This piggybacks on your idea of moving in a contracted state. Listen, the contraction is not only mind, the contraction is body also. Okay. And we must recognize that when we go towards our visions, as even in these tumultuous times, that it is an embodied state of vibrational energy that we must move with towards our desires and our visions. The embodied state of joy, the embodied state of gratitude, these embodied states are the things that will keep us on our vision and not be contracted. You cannot be contracted with joy. You are in your joy. Okay. And so we must include our body. Now, for me, like Marcy says, I'm a dancer. This is how I really embrace the embodiment method, is that I am in my body. How does my body feel? And as I'm warming up in my dance class, right, I feel in my body where I'm stuck, where I have these energies of stuckness, right? And when we get into movement, when we get into embodiment and become aware that we must clear these energies that we are holding, whether they're in our chakras, whether they're in our shoulders, whether they're in our belly, and we have to breathe through them and release them so our energy shifts. When we shift our energy, the way we show up in the world shifts, and then the actions and reactions from who we are being in that moment shifts our whole reality. This is part of the work, why the individual is very important. The collective is very important, but the individual self is very important, that we cultivate ourselves in such a way that our vibrational energy is open. It's not in a contracted state, like Marcy said. It is open and willing to receive what's out in the world. And not only that, but also to be a beacon for other people to want to jump on our train. We are the creators. So people see my energy and they want to be near me. When I'm in my dance classes, I am over perfection. I am only into the process and the creating and the beauty of that moment and who I am. And people are like, oh my God, you're so present. You're so open. I want that. Like, what is that about? Right? Well, that's about embodiment. That's about understanding that it's my responsibility to burn those old contracts of perfection, of need of control, of having other people responsible for my life, burning all those contracts and showing up authentically in a high vibration, right? This is what we all aim for. Not the perfection, not the doing it right. It's finding our own way in our own body. And so once you do that, you become very bold. I'm very bold. At this point, I'm very bold, right?
Yep.
I'm like, I say it like it is. I'm very loving and funny and present, but I'm very bold. I will not, acquiesce my power or my voice for anyone. And so this is, especially in my work, like my creativity, the things I create, I hold on to my vision like a little baby. I love it, right? And so, Marcy, I want to ask you because I think we're talking about these energies, the energy of joy, the energy of gratitude, the energy of curiosity, of exploration. These are the energies that we really want to embrace and embody. But what are the energies that most often sabotage us in times of chaos, and how do we avoid that?
Yeah. And I think this is really important for us to understand. There are energies that will sabotage you. Again, I want to go back to this myth that if you just stay in your lane, keep yourself safe and protected, that you won't be influenced. That is where you are actually more vulnerable. You cannot protect yourself in a contracted state. So that's number one. Number two, again, I want to get back to this concept about fear and how numb we have become to fear. And this is really interesting, because if I were to ask 9 out of 10 people how fear is showing up in their lives, they wouldn't be able to tell me. Why is that? It's because we become so accustomed to living in it. Our bodies have been accustomed to it. We are constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop, and yet we don't recognize that that's fear. We talk about, this is happening and that's happening, and you can't trust this and you can't trust that. That is fear. And so, this is, again, we talk about radical acceptance all the time. We must radically accept that fear is very present. And when we don't recognize it, it will sabotage us. And the reason for that is that fear is ego based. And I want you to remember the ego has one function, and that is, in its demented mind, to keep you safe. How does it do that? It keeps you in your place, keeps you in your lane, keeps you in a contracted state, keeps you small, keeps you separate, keeps you believing that that's how you have to stay in order to be safe. So the moment that you start to venture out, the moment that you start to get all full of yourself, the moment that you say, well, maybe I can do this differently, or, oh, I'm so tired of, feeling like this, so tired of feeling disconnected, of not having energy, of feeling separate, of, thinking that my happiness is out there. I want to bring it in. All of these things, it's actually what brought you here today. It's the desire for something more. That means that your heart has not only been speaking to you, but you've listened and you've reached, and you set this time aside in your very busy schedule. And we appreciate it so much, because the truth is, we're all in this together. When Amy and I reflect these things back to you, you reflect back to us. And so we're constantly getting information about what we need to shift. And so as we go forward, accepting that there are energies that are seeking to sabotage you is very real. But here's what I want you to remember, and it's also why you're here. Your higher self knows that you need that powerful aspect of yourself supported and reinforced so you can be a greater presence in your own life. Now you don't need to fear the sabotage. You just need to keep feeding your connection. Amy talked earlier about, the connection that she developed to Mother God, right? So I'm a firm believer also, we must have this daily spiritual practice. And I'm telling you right now, as we get more and more, with these sabotaging energies piling up all around us, as everything crumbles and our own fear comes up, the only thing that will remind us about who we are is that daily spiritual practice, the energy that we are feeding, where we immediately reclaim our connection to ourselves. So it's this aspect of cultivating this awareness, right? We have to be consciously aware of what we're experiencing, and do we need to tweak our energy in order to create more of what we want to see, more of what we want to experience? Because that vision that we're talking about is ever expanding in a creative field. It's only in a constricted, small, limited field where it has to be maintained with tunnel vision. Your creative heart knows exactly what it needs in order to grow and expand. And it also knows that you've been subjugated by these practices and conditioning and programs that have kept you small and separate. So it's going to lead you to the most expansive place for you that you will allow in, that you will allow in. So our jobs right now are to create a greater ability to receive. And that we can only do as we let go of the need to stay small and separate out of fear. So we're blowing it out of the park. Okay? We cannot afford to stay for one moment longer in a small, constricted world. We simply cannot. It's what cuts us off from our creative systems that are like yearning to come together and show you what they can do. And it's not just what it can do for you, it's what it can do all around you as well. So, with that, Amy, I would like to ask
I
you.
think we're going to jump in. I think with what you were saying, because I know that fear, a high level of fear right now is a reality that we're living in. And
Mhm.
as things are being questioned. And so we do have I want to share, if I can, online, the stress free VIP bundle for our audience if they want to
Oh
partake in
my
that.
God, I love that.
Because everything, I'm going to share the screen because everything on here is actually there to support you in really finding ways and support on a weekly basis or through these courses to support you. And we also add a workshop at the end of the month. We're going to add this on too. But basically, you get the Spiritual Accountability for Heart Centered Women online course from Marcy. That's
It's fabulous, by the way.
And from me, you get Radiant Reflection Meditations for the Heart Centered Woman to help you really focus in Um, and then you also get the vulnerability advantage from um, Miss Lee, which she's awesome. And then you get the replay of our Purpose, Passion, and Prosperity show, which is a great, get back into your purpose and your passion. And then we did a workshop last month that was Healing Your Heart workshop, and there's a sound bath on that particular
It was
workshop,
wonderful.
along with other practices, and that's just $47, valued at $665. But that doesn't include, you will get our monthly workshop this month on this also. So I would love for everyone to take advantage of this offering that Marcy and I put together for this time. We stand by our products and what we want to how do I stop to share and what we want to help you guys with in this life that we are living together. And I'm going to put the link in the chat in case anyone wants to jump on and take advantage of this offering. The workshop last month was awesome with the sound bath
We
and
had a
there's
guest,
we had a
Dr.
guest, yeah.
Carla Wade
Mm-hmm.
came in, and she is a sound therapist. Her sound bath was beautiful.
Yeah, so this is speaking to you and you feel like you need the extra support right now, go ahead and jump in and join the VIP. You'll actually end up getting 2 workshops that you always go back to. You go,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went back already and listened to that sound bath and just kind of gotten the vibration of it all last week. So it was beautiful.
Great. All right, so I'm going to jump in and ask you another question to make sure we get these in before we run out of time. But I do encourage everyone also to sign up. All of those things that are in that package, like Amy said, it's, at your own pace, in your own time, but then you have them. And that is something that is, honestly, it's invaluable. So with that, Amy, I want to ask you, will you share a moment in your life where everything felt like it was stacked against you? And how did you succeed against all odds?
Yeah. So if you know me, that moment was when, my fiance was diagnosed with cancer and he passed away 6 weeks later. And, when we are in those moments where, a lot of this is about trust, right? So many of us have this plan, right? We have this plan. He and I had this beautiful plan together. And I trusted in the fact that it was going to be true. I trusted in the fact that we were going to, get married, that we're going to get our own, kids will graduate, we'll have our own time together, we'll travel. We had this plan. And so that's total disruption really challenged my trust in this world I'm living in. Now, that was probably one of the best things I ever learned about, was that you really have to create a relationship with uncertainty and not give your passion or your power to things that are outside of you, because those things can disappear at any moment. And many of us are learning that lesson right now. And many of us have been going through that or have gone through that. But I really chose to take that moment of total decimation of what I thought my life was going to be, right? And be intentional on the rebuilding of myself, the rebuilding of my dreams, the letting go of these constructs that are supposed to keep me safe, that are just an illusion. I mean, they're really just an illusion. And when you suffer these big losses, you understand that that is to be true. Because when you are in those moments, right? Your friend's not picking up the phone, your mom's busy, you know, all these people that are usually at your fingertips aren't there for that moment. And who do you have? Yourself. And so when you go through these things, and many a times, you know, I lost friends because they felt uncomfortable with the fact that my fiance passed away. They didn't know how to deal with me. They didn't want to tell me happy things in their life because they felt guilty. So it's, you know, people shun, you know, turn their back on you for their own comfort level for whatever reason. So you are with self, right? You're with self. And it's just, I was just talking about this the other day, just how interesting, how fearful we are of creating the relationship with self. How we just try to fill our whole life with other people, other things, money, jobs, people, relationships. And we're not very comfortable with self. Well, I became very comfortable with myself. I really learned to cultivate a relationship with self and to really become more resilient in my life because I didn't really have that aspect, and to love myself above all others, right? And to honor myself, to learn how to honor myself, um, and to really, as I say, give up the perfection and go for the participation. Always go for the participation. Okay. Like Marcy said, don't be in contraction. Go for the participation. When someone says something, go, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then figure out how to do it later. Participate. And so that's really how I have developed my resilience, my confidence, my voice, my ability to participate is through the loss of someone that I truly loved. And so it is possible. It is possible. And that's why Marcy and I are here, because we know it's possible. We've been through it. We're on the other side of it. And we understand the beauty that waits is waiting for you. This is it, right? The beauty is really waiting for you to let go, to release, and to fall in love with yourself, hook up to something higher than yourself, and participate. So, Marcy,
Yes.
is holding our vision always the right thing to do? What is the number one thing to remember, and how do we keep it in the forefront of our consciousness?
So, quite simply, there are times that it's quite appropriate for us to give up a vision. And um, it might sound like, oh my gosh, but you're abandoning that vision that you've held on to for so long. And here's what I want to remind everyone: as creators, if we are truly in the flow, which I think you got a good idea about in the last question that I answered, if you're truly in the flow, what is for your highest good may change. What is your heart's desire may change. What your heart yearns for may change. What you need may change. In which case, I'm sure you've heard of the term, beating a dead horse and expecting it to get up and give you a ride tells us that it's an impossible situation. And this we see a lot in people's behavioral patterns that repeat, right? Rinse and repeat, where you find yourself in similar relationships, for instance, that leave you feeling unfulfilled, unseen, unheard, unknown. And you keep trying to make them work. So I think when we start to accept that we are truly creators and we are meant to create in the flow of energy, it actually requires that we reflect on the visions that we are holding. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I was married for almost 30 years, and there came a time where my physical body started to deteriorate, my mental health, my emotional health deteriorated to the point where I was barely functioning in a way that I needed to. I had 4 kids, marriage, job, community service, all of that. And I couldn't function. And I needed to reflect on my life and say, what is it that I'm holding on to? And when push came to shove, and I've shared this story before, and if you're not familiar with it, I'll share it next time because I don't want to take up too much time. But what happened was I had this realization that all of my life force was going into saving a marriage where I was really unhappy. And not only was I unhappy, I was with my husband who had no um, intention or ability to also be reflective or to take responsibility and be accountable. Refused to go to marriage counseling. His response was always, that's your problem, not mine. That's your problem, not mine. And so I had to really just accept one day that I was in a very one sided partnership, which meant there was no partnership. I was in a one sided marriage, which meant there was no marriage. And I realized how alone I was. And what also came to me was that was the reason why I was fighting so hard. I didn't know who I could possibly be outside of the marriage. How would I define myself? Who would I be? What would I do? And so what happened was in the reckoning with that, I started to literally claw my way back to my own heart, where this fear of being alone, right? This fear of not knowing who I would be or what I would do was overpowered by this connection, this knowingness that I would never be alone, that I would be shown my purpose, that I would be shown the path, that I would be given everything that I needed in order to bring it to fruition. And that was how, in that moment, I knew I was meant to give up that vision. But with that vision also meant I had to give up the dreams that I had of, you know, this this marriage that in my mind was really a fantasy and not the reality. And so we do have to give up the visions that literally are keeping us separate from our higher selves, from the parts of us that are meant to bloom and grow and expand and step into a path where everything, the universe, will just lay itself at our feet. Did for me. I've watched it now with thousands of people around the world. And that this is also part of being a creator, just letting it go, not being attached to what isn't serving us and what is also inhibiting us from us being in service to others. I could not be here if I had stayed in that marriage. In fact, I probably would have succumbed to some, medical condition. It would have taken me out because I could feel my spirit dying. I could feel my connection to my spirit. diminishing. And once that happens, the physical body, will come next. So, yes, there are times where it's quite appropriate to let go of the vision. And so we must reflect on our lives and decide what has been built on illusion, on fantasy, on these desires to appease others, to live up to other people's expectations. What have we created that is serving that? Because that's all illusion, it's all fantasy. We are here to be in service to that connection of source energy that is here to sustain us, comes through our heart. And so, yes, love yourself enough to give up the visions that you've created under false pretense, that you've created on illusion.
And I think that
Because,
hit, yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I think that hits upon a point too, is that, women in general are not supposed to change their mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're fighting not to change our mind to prove how strong we are, how, mindful we're, how powerful we're, how, but man, changing your mind is very good. It's a very good thing to renegotiate all these contracts is great. It's
That's right.
great. I remember I got out of college, I thought I was going to be a math teacher. I could have plowed my way through it, but I started substitute teaching. I was like, oh no, I can't work in this type of environment. No, no, no. This is not for me, right? But many of us keep plowing through knowing it's not for us. We do this in relationships also. That we just plow through to what our visions of what we're supposed to do or want to do or whatever it is. And I'm giving you permission to change your mind.
That's right. And embrace, it's supposed to be a woman's prerogative to
Yeah.
change her mind. Now let's actually do it. Allow your vision to become a vision of today.
Yes.
What do you want for today? And then let the universe deliver it. And then create a new one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and just keep going with your heart's desires, and you will never look back. I have never looked back.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important. So I think we're going to wrap things
Yeah.
up.
We're
We've
at
come to
11
the
a.m.
end of our time, but I want to share another quote with you all because I thought this was so perfect. And
Mm.
it's Gift Gugu Mona, and it comes from her book, Dear Daughter, Short and Sweet Messages for a Queen. Quite appropriate for us. And here's how it goes. At the end of it all, you will not be remembered for only your thoughts, but for the things you got done against all odds. Make it your goal to achieve greatness in life. And that greatness is you being you. There is nothing more powerful than you being the authentic, most expansive version of you for all the world to be blessed by. So, with that, I just want to say thank you all for being here. And yeah, please definitely tap into that VIP program that we have put together for you. It's so important that you stay as stress free as possible and stay aligned and connected to your heart. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. We are live with Marcy and Amy. We are here every third Thursday of the month. And we are here, showing up heart centered, as bold and aligned as we possibly can be.
That's right.
And again, take advantage of the VIP. And thank you all for spending this time with us, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
And by the way, if you've had any aha moments,
Yeah.
take a moment to just share it in the in
So,
the chat or let us know how we have touched you
any
and supported
takeaways?
you. Any takeaways? Yeah.
Yeah. Petunia, thank you. Happy Easter to
Thank you
you.
so much. Yes. Happy Easter to you. Happy Passover to all those who are celebrating Passover.
Oh, yes. And this will be on a replay. And also,
Mhm.
yeah, you can grab the VIP and the replay emails. And thank you again. Cindy, thank you and
Thank you,
blessings to
Cindy.
you.
So many blessings to you as well.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you saying thank you and letting us know how you've been touched. Thank you so much.
All right.